mean, we came prepared the last fight to do basically what we come and do, tomorrow night. So it's all about, it just depends on what Bernard comes to do. If he comes to fight, then fans will get to see a fight. But if he comes to lay down like he did the last time, then I feel sorry for the people who tune in to HBO to watch and the people who bought tickets for the fight. But I'll tell you, I'm definitely here. Becoming the light heavyweight champion again.
I don't know if you saw. I sent you last night.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see it?
No, I didn't say anything.
You tell him.
Good, you tell him.
Well, we did a poll, and of 18 guys, only 2 picked Hopkins to win, and 2 of them picked you to knock him out.
16 picked you to win, 2 by knockout.
Well, actually, one of them, he picked it as a split draw.
That's why he's not going to get any questions answered.
I gotta get the program set.
Not a chance.
From the first fight to now, I think before the fight, you were saying what you thought was going to happen in that fight, just as you are now. But I think as a result of, do you think that as a result of what happened in the first fight, that may be why some of the perspective has changed, more leaning toward you, a young athlete who seems to be very determined?
Yeah, it was obvious. It wasn't a long fight. It was only 2 rounds, but in those 2 rounds, I was the one trying to press the fight. I was trying to make the action. I backed up the whole 2 rounds. He didn't once, try to make it a fight. So I think people look at that and they can see the difference, in the size and the strength. And I think that he's seen the difference on the size and the strength. It wasn't many punches landed, but I did land a good left hand in the first round. And I think right there was the point where he figured out. I don't know if it was that he didn't train as hard as he thought he should have trained for that fight, and he found out maybe that night he found out that I was serious. I'm not a joke. I took a lot of criticism over the last couple of years, about my work ethic and my punch output. Being more of a fighter who doesn't look like he's into the fight. But that night I was all there. Chad Dawson was there that night, mentally, physically, and I was ready. I was going to be crowned the light heavyweight champ that night.
Before your fight with Pascal, we were up in, a few of us were up in your room in Vegas. We interviewed you there, and one person asked you, like right at the end, would you go for the knockout? And I think you said, I'm going to go for the knockout because you could get knocked out.
Yeah.
And then in the Pascal fight, there were people who maybe criticized you, thought that you could have taken him out early in the fight when you had him hurt. Why now are you talking about knocking Hopkins out? You had said to me, 6th round knockout, 2 guys had picked you to knock him out.
Yeah.
Why now do you feel
I'm
more
gonna go
confident?
back to what I said earlier. If Bernard comes to fight, if he comes to fight and he wants to get the fans, the fact that we're fighting in Atlantic City, which is pretty much his backyard. I know a lot of people are gonna be here rooting for Bernard, but I'm here to fight. I'm here to finish off what should have happened on the last time out. Do I want to knock out? Yes, I definitely want to knock out. I want to be the first person to knock Bernard out. Yeah, that'd be great for me, for my image, for boxing. But am I going to go out there looking for the knockout? No. I'm just going to let the knockout come to me. I know I'm physically stronger. I know I'm faster. You'll definitely see the size advantage on the night of the fight, just like you did see in the last night. Bernard, the last fight, Bernard had no fire in his eyes, and that's one thing for me being a fighter. I've been in the ring with dozens of different guys, and Bernard didn't have that fire in his eyes that night. I could look at him from across the ring, and I knew he didn't have it. He didn't want to be in there that night.
Yeah,
Is Chad different
wait.
from, I was going to ask you, is he different from
Yeah, but
guy?
let's go back for a moment to the weigh-in in California when they went face-to-face. If you look at Hopkins, he's always talking shit to the fighter, especially in the weigh-in. He's in the fighter's face. He couldn't look at Chad, and he walked away from Chad at the face-off. He spent 1 second taking the pictures, and he never said a word. He turned and he walked away from Chad. I still subscribe he was not hurt. He found a way, like he always does, to get out of the fight. If you look at Chad, after Hopkins was on the ground, Chad was running around like an uncaged animal, telling him to get up and fight like a man. and never did. There's no proof that he was hurt to this day, other than him saying he can't lift his shoulder. There's nothing about a rehab. And don't you all find it strange that we're here doing a round table instead of a real press conference at a big fight? Because Hopkins won't look him in the eye. We had the opportunity with HBO to do what's called the face-off with Max Kellerman. He didn't want to do it. Chad wanted to do it. So Chad's made himself available. That's why we're here today, because Hopkins can't look at him.
I will say this, there's people who I think would say more there's method to his madness because,
Yeah, but that-
you know, when he went to Puerto Rico and
Yeah.
threw down the flag and, you know, that kind of thing.
Those days are over, man.
Okay.
Those days
That's
are
what you
over.
think?
It's over. I mean, this guy's been around boxing forever. I've had the privilege of watching Bernard, you know, from time when I was still an amateur, I watched Bernard, you know. So I know all the tactics, I know everything, you know. I mean, those are the traits that you pass on to the next generation of fighters, like, you know, being outspoken and, you know, bringing excitement to the press conference, to the weigh-in. Bernard didn't have that this time. You know, people saying that it's mind games, that he's being quiet, or whatever, he's holding back because he's gonna show me the night of the fight. I don't believe that, man. I mean, I don't believe that.
But after all these years, why you? Why do you think it's you? I mean, you've never done this before. Do you think it's a product of you, it's being your time and him being, you know, reaching that point? Or what do you think it is right now? Why?
I mean, the fighters know, man. They know. I mean,
He knows it's over.
you know.
He knows.
I mean, not even just to say that. I mean, but it's always a younger guy coming up. It's always a younger guy, you know. I mean, it's just the fact that Bernard chose to stick around for so long that he's so much older than I am. But it's always a younger guy who's coming up, you know, that you got to watch out for. And I was that guy that Bernard been watching out for the last 3 or 4 years. That he's been, you know, okay, I'm not ready for him yet, but, you know, but now it's just that it's just too late. He's 47 years old. You know, I'm 29 years old. You know, maybe we should have fought 3 years ago when we really wanted to fight. Maybe it would have been a better fight. Maybe, you know, the fans would have been more excited about the fight. But now he's 47 years old. I'm 29. You know, this guy's older than my father. So, I mean,
Well, having seen him fight so often, you know he's not just going to come at you, right?
I know that for a fact. We know that. Just like the last fight. Come on, we tried to bring the fight to him. He showed no intention of trying to fight, you know. And when he found that way out, I mean,
Well, he's been able to like find a way to beat like the Kelly Pavliks and the Tarvers.
yeah.
Can you counteract that? I mean, he's probably going to try to do the same thing against you, right?
Yeah,
So
but
how do you?
Kelly Pavlik and Pascal, we're different fighters. We're not the same fighter. Mentally, physically, I mean, the things that I do in the ring, that Kelly Pavlik does in the ring, is different things. Kelly Pavlik he's a big puncher, but one-dimensional fighter. You know, he doesn't have the option to switch up and then say, okay, I'm gonna just outbox him. He only knows one thing to do, and that's go straight forward and punch. Pascal, still an amateur fighter. He beat me, yeah, but on a bad night. But I was on my way to a knockout victory before the headbutt. But different fighter, you know. He still has the amateur style, you know. He let Bernard get into his head, and that's what happened. Bernard's not gonna get into my head. No matter what he does, what he says, what he has, you know, the fans thinking that he's playing mind games, it's not gonna work.
Is there any credence to, you just brought up the Pascal fight, is there any credence to, when you watch that fight again, that you let him off the hook?
Yeah,
In your
every time I
mind?
watch it, I mean, I'm be honest, I watched the fight
At
like
what
3
point?
times. I think it was what round was it? It was the ninth round.
Ninth round.
The ninth round when, you know, my corner finally told me, look, you're not gonna get a decision. You gotta knock him out. That's when I started to pick it up, you know. But my whole thing with that fight was that I looked for that one big punch all night, you know. I knew I could stop him. I knew I could hurt him. I knew I was stronger. I knew I could have hurt Pascal anytime I wanted to, but I looked for that one punch all night, and the punch never came. So when my corner told me in the ninth round, you know, that you need a knockout, you know, that woke me up. You know, the fact that I was going to lose my world title, so that woke me up. I came out, I started throwing punches, I started landing punches. You know, and every time I hit this dude, I hurt him every time, from the ninth round on to the 11th when I hit him with the left uppercut. But, you know, Pascal, he got the victory. You know, I didn't do what I was supposed to do that night, you know. But, you know, since I've been back with Scully, man, I'm back to being myself.
Do you see any scenario, John, do you see any scenario where Hopkins will come at you? I mean,
Yes, when he realizes that it's over.
and you've accounted for that?
Yeah, I mean, we have couple different things. You know, as far as with the headbutt and the running in, you know, he closes his eyes when he comes in. He doesn't even, his eyes are not even open, so he won't even see what he's getting hit with. But we have a good plan.
Would
Good
you be
strategy.
satisfied if it's a close decision? Would you be satisfied if
No.
you win a close?
No,
You won't be fulfilled?
no.
I want to make a
I don't.
prediction. I
I'm
want
not
to make
thinking
a,
about a close decision.
You want to blow them out?
I know. We know what's gonna happen.
I want to make a prediction. If Chad is beating him bad, like I think he will, the fight will never go 12 rounds. Hopkins will not come out of the corner during one of the rounds. Will have some type of injury, because he's not going to want to defeat to the hands of Chad Dawson in the ring.
Kev, let me pose a hypothetical question. I know how you and Gary feel about whether or not, you know, the injury he claimed to have in the last fight was legitimate or not legitimate. It was the second round. 2 rounds had not been completed. Now, obviously, if somebody is injured, and you're talking about the 9th, 10th, 11th round of a 12-round fight, you know, you're probably going to have to try to, you know, make it to the end. 2 rounds. Hypothetically speaking, if you're fighting whomever, not necessarily Hopkins, but whomever, and something happens and you hurt your right shoulder in the second round of a 12-round fight, you know, what do you do? I mean, are you going to try to, you know, continue fighting with one arm? I mean, hypothetically speaking, or not when you get that long?
That's a good question. Very good question. I mean, to counter that, I mean, you got to look at the tape, and Bernard never tried to get up. He never tried to get up from the point where he fell, hit the ground, where the referee told him, Bernard, the fight's going to be over. You're going to lose the fight if you don't get up. Bernard kept saying that, I can't fight. Stop the fight. I can't fight. Those are the exact words that were coming out of his mouth. He never once, I mean, if he would have stood up and tried, got back up immediately and tried, but he sat there for about 5 minutes and didn't even try to get up. So I can't say that, I can't tell you what would happen if I dislocated my shoulder in the second round. I can't tell you because it's never happened to me, and I don't know. But I mean, to call yourself a legend and not try to get up and continue to fight, I don't know.
Let me give you one other thing. Hopkins did this once before, where they said, if you don't get up and fight, you're going to lose the fight. And he said to the doctor, oh, I can fight with one hand. Now, that's not someone who wants to fight. You're not going to fight Chad Dawson with one hand. You're either really injured and you can't fight, and you say, I can't fight, I'm injured. Or you go out there and fucking do your best, especially if you're the legend, as Chad said.
Chad, you said you won't be satisfied with a close decision. And this being New Jersey, I know you said you have a good relationship with people here. Are you concerned that you can't win a decision here?
No. I mean, we had a great training camp, man. That's never been a topic of discussion in training camp. We understand that we're basically in his backyard. I mean, he's fought here numerous of times, but I mean, I can't. I mean, nothing's bothering me right now. Nothing. You know, I'm healthy. I'm strong. I mean, the way I feel, like nothing can't go wrong right now. There's nothing that could go wrong.
John, I'm sorry. John, would you, I guess, if the fight is Bernard's doing, you know, the tricks that you guys have worked out, are you like prepared to work the ref and have him stay concentrated on the fight? Because I know early in the first round you were saying some things to him, don't worry about this, don't worry about that.
Right. Well, in the last fight, the only thing I was concerned with was Hopkins was so non-combative, and Chad was obviously wanting to fight. And all I told him, like, you have to understand, sometimes a trainer will say something in between rounds, and people will interpret it different ways. So, you know, they have a connection. They know what they mean. And I told him, don't get frustrated. And what I meant was, I know you want to fight really hard, but he obviously doesn't want to fight right now, and it's hard. You need 2 to tango. So I didn't want him to get, you know, so anxious and run into something stupid. You know, I want him to keep his head about him. And as long as he does that, he's going to win the fight. I mean, I think Hopkins, we're planning for all the different scenarios. I mean, I could picture it where Hopkins does the same thing and he tries to be cagey and move and limit the action, or, you know, he could come out and say, hey, it's my last stand, I gotta go out with guns blazing. Maybe he'll come out and let his hands fly like a maniac. I mean, you have to be ready for everything and that's why we train as we do, for strength and for speed, just in case we have to switch things up halfway through.